picture this. You're hauling a load, maybe it's temperature sensitive, and that reefer unit starts acting real temperamental in this heat.
Yeah, or maybe you're sidelined with a breakdown, just watching the minutes tick by waiting for a tow. Feels like there's always something adding pressure out there.
It does. And those everyday challenges, well, they often reflect some pretty significant shifts happening behind the scenes in the trucking world.
That's exactly what we're going to unpack today, isn't it?
Right. We're diving into a bunch of recent discussions, stuff touching on those big changes and, the daily frustrations you're probably seeing.
Like, what sort of things are we covering?
Okay, so we've got the buzz around solar-powered reefer trailers, the whole crunch with the diesel mechanic shortage, potential changes to sleep apnea rules.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Those ever-climbing insurance costs, the UAW looking into unionizing OTR drivers, and even what Walmart's been trying out with their own freight fleet.
Wow, okay. That's quite a mix. But you can see how each one ties back to how truckers operate, how they make a living.
Absolutely. And our mission here really is to dig into these things, look at them from all sides, kind of like Hervey from Life,
Right.
as the trucker always reminds us, right?
It's two different angles, yeah.
And figure out how they might affect your day-to-day, your future on the road. And also maybe think about how you can stay ahead of the curve a bit.
Sounds good. Where should we start?
So let's kick things off with something that could maybe cool down some of those reefer anxieties.
Right.
Solar-powered reefer trailers.
Okay. The tech here is actually pretty neat. You've got trailers with solar panels on top feeding power into lithium-ion batteries.
Right. And those batteries run the reefer unit.
They run the refrigeration, yeah.
Yeah.
But also things like lights, sensors, even the telematics systems,
Yeah.
tracking performance and location data.
Hmm.
Often it's set up as a hybrid system, so
Mhm.
there's still a diesel engine for backup.
Wow.
But the idea is to rely mostly on solar power when the sun's actually shining.
Okay, let's unpack this sunny idea then. Harnessing sunshine to keep cargo cold sounds like a win-win on the surface.
It does, and the potential fuel savings seem pretty impressive. Some reports say up to 60% less diesel.
60%, wow. Think what that could mean for your bottom line at the pump.
Exactly. And less diesel means fewer emissions, maybe less wear and tear on the reefer engine itself.
And quieter operation too, right? Which could be a nice perk maybe for late-night deliveries in cities.
Definitely a possibility. Reduced emissions fit that whole push for greener logistics.
true.
But, we also have to think about the environmental side of making the panels and batteries in the first place. It's complicated.
Fair point. And then there's the cost. That's the big hurdle, isn't it? What kind of upfront investment are we talking about?
Yeah, the discussions we've seen suggest it's a pretty significant premium to get a trailer set up like this.
So while maybe larger fleets see the long-term savings or use it for their, green image,
Right?
it could be a really tough sell for an independent owner-operator. They need to see returns much faster, usually.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't work as well in, say, cloudy states.
That's a practical consideration too, yeah. And that's where you see the different perspectives. Eco-focused carriers might jump on it.
But the independent guys are looking hard at the immediate dollars and cents.
Right. Then you have the reefer drivers themselves. They might appreciate fewer cooling unit breakdowns, less downtime, hopefully.
Less downtime is always good.
And the maintenance techs. They'll be watching the long-term reliability, how easy these new electrical systems are to service.
So for those of you driving reefers, is this something you think could eventually become more accessible, help cut down costs and breakdowns? Definitely seems like one to watch.
Keep an eye on it for sure.
Okay, now speaking of breakdowns and downtime, let's shift gears to something causing a lot of it. The shortage of diesel mechanics.
Ugh, yeah. This is a real crunch point for the industry. It hits everyone, from solo operators right up to the mega fleets.
It really does. Imagine your truck needs fixing, but the shop's backed up. Days, maybe even a week or more.
That delay just eats directly into your earnings, doesn't it? Throws your whole schedule out of whack.
It paints a really frustrating picture. And it's not a simple fix either. We're seeing fewer young people going into the trade.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, maybe there's a perception it's not as, high-tech as other jobs, even though today's trucks are incredibly complex.
Right, packed with computers and sophisticated systems.
Plus, you've got experienced mechanics retiring or just getting burned out. And some feel the pay hasn't kept up with the skills needed, especially with how complex these trucks are now.
That increasing complexity, all the electronics, emissions controls, that's a steep learning curve too.
So how does this affect you, the driver, on the road? The consequences are pretty significant, right?
Oh, absolutely. For owner-operators, every single day that truck is down, that's lost revenue. Pure and simple.
And fleet managers are tearing their hair out trying to keep trucks moving, meet deadlines.
And for you drivers, it can mean unexpected layovers, you miss home time, maybe lose out on good loads.
Yeah, maybe missing those higher-paying spot market opportunities because your truck's stuck in the shop.
Exactly. It just creates this ripple effect. Longer repair times become normal. That adds stress, maybe even adds to driver fatigue.
We're even hearing about some big fleets building their own in-house maintenance shops just to try and get around these delays.
Which isn't really an option for the smaller outfits or the independent guys, is it? Makes them even more vulnerable.
Yeah. So for those of you who've been stuck waiting for repairs, how has that actually hit your income, your time? It really drives home the importance of preventative maintenance, maybe having a financial buffer.
A buffer is key. Absolutely. And something else that could potentially take drivers off the road is this proposed FMCSA rule on sleep apnea screening.
Right. This keeps coming up. It's generating a lot of talk. The FMCSA is looking at a mandatory screening for obstructive sleep apnea during the CDL medical exam,
How would that work? What are they looking at?
based on things like BMI, neck size, blood pressure, also reports of snoring or feeling really tired during the day.
Okay. And if those flags are raised?
Then you might need to get a sleep study done. And if you're diagnosed, you'd likely have to use a CPAP machine with compliance monitoring just to keep your medical card.
No, it's worth remembering this isn't the first time they tried this, right?
No, a previous attempt stalled out. But this time, it feels like there might be more momentum behind it.
It raises big questions. Safety versus, individual drivers' health, their livelihoods.
Exactly. You hear from a lot of veteran drivers who feel like it's government overreach, maybe targeting people based on how they look, not how they drive. But then you have medical experts pointing to studies showing untreated sleep apnea seriously increases the risk of fatigue-related crashes.
And the owner-operators are worried about the cost, right?
Yeah.
Testing, equipment, potential downtime.
Yeah. And even the big carriers, while they might see it reducing crash risk and maybe lowering insurance costs eventually,
They still have concerns about implementation, I bet.
for sure. We're seeing all sorts of reactions online, strong opposition, but also some drivers saying treatment actually improved their alertness, their quality of life.
And the trucking associations, like OOBIDI, they're pushing back, asking for more data, more driver input.
So for you out there listening, how do you feel about this? Could it affect your med card, your ability to drive?
Regardless of what happens with the rule, it really does underline how important taking care of your health is. Getting proper rest is just non-negotiable for safety.
Couldn't agree more. Your safety, everyone's safety. And tied into that well-being is the financial side, which brings us to those rising insurance premiums.
This is hitting a lot of folks hard. We're seeing reports of commercial auto insurance going up significantly. Some figures say as much as 12% in the last year alone.
12%, that's a huge jump. For an owner-operator especially, that's a massive added cost every month. Really strains the finances.
And what's driving it? Well, several things. You got these so-called nuclear verdicts, those massive jury awards and accident lawsuits.
Insurers have to factor that risk in.
Exactly. Then there's ongoing insurance fraud, things like staged accidents. That, unfortunately, hits everyone's rates.
Plus FMCSA violations, the rising cost of parts, and labor for repairs on these complex trucks. It all adds up.
It really feels like a perfect storm, doesn't it? And it seems like owner-operators and the smaller fleets are getting hit the hardest.
Yeah, they just don't have the same bargaining power as the big guys when it comes to negotiating rates. They're facing some really steep quotes.
Even the large companies are seeing increases, though they might have more options, like higher deductibles or self-insuring some things.
So what's the industry doing? Are there any solutions?
Well, we're seeing more investment in tech, dash cams, telematics, stuff that can provide evidence if there is an accident, which might help with insurance.
Maybe get some discounts.
Potentially. And some owner-operators are trying to band together, form co-ops, share info to find better rates.
But there's still this feeling that the pricing isn't always clear, right? Leaves drivers wondering why costs keep climbing.
Yeah, a lack of transparency is definitely a complaint.
So, for you listening, have your insurance costs jumped? This kind of financial pressure, it really makes you think about protecting your income, Maybe even diversifying your skills, building some resilience beyond just the driving job itself.
That's a really important point, which actually leads us nicely into another potential big shift, the UAW looking into organizing over-the-road truckers.
Yeah, this is definitely stirring the pot. Fresh off their deals with the automakers, the UAW says they're exploring organizing long-haul drivers.
What are their main arguments?
They're citing concerns about low pay, lack of benefits, and how drivers get classified, especially the independent contractor issue. They want to raise standards, stop what they call exploitation.
And they've started outreach, talking to drivers.
Reportedly, yeah, at truck stops, online, trying to gauge interest and figure out what the key issues are from the driver's point of view.
But I imagine opinions on this are all over the map.
Oh, completely. You've got some drivers, maybe especially those working for big carriers, who think a union could mean better pay, health insurance, retirement plans, a stronger voice. But then you have loads of independent owner-operators who really value their freedom. They might worry about union dues, rules, losing that autonomy.
And the carriers themselves, they'll be looking at potentially higher labor costs, less flexibility.
Naturally. And even veteran drivers might have mixed feelings, maybe based on past union experiences, good or bad.
So if this UAW effort actually gains traction, what could happen?
Well, you could see upward pressure on wages and benefits across the board, maybe more challenges to the lease operator or independent contractor models.
But that could also mean higher operating costs for carriers, right?
Yeah.
Which might filter down to freight rates.
Could do. And it might create more of a divide within the industry itself.
So for you out there, what are your thoughts on this? Unionization in trucking. What would be the pros and cons for you personally?
This is definitely a situation that could reshape things significantly. It really could. Okay, one more major development to cover. Walmart testing its own in-house freight fleet.
That's right. The retail giant is running a pilot program, using their own dedicated trucks, their own drivers, to move goods from distribution centers to stores, at least regionally for now.
Integrating it right into their own logistics network, more control, more efficiency. That's the goal, presumably.
Exactly. Now, they're stressing this isn't meant to completely replace their third-party carrier partners yet.
Keyword. Yeah.
Right. But it's a move that's definitely got the trucking industry watching very closely.
Because Walmart is just so huge. If this works well for them, other big retailers might think, hey, maybe we should do that too.
And that could mean, what? A smaller pool of available freight for traditional carriers?
Potentially, yeah. More competition for the freight that's left, which could put downward pressure on rates. You can see how different players would react. Walmart gets control, efficiency.
That'd be faster stocking times.
But independent drivers, smaller carriers who rely on that Walmart freight, they might feel squeezed out.
On the flip side, maybe some company drivers see it as a chance for a stable job with a big company. Walmart has been bumping up driver pay recently.
True. But small fleet owners whose business relies heavily on a Walmart contract, that could feel like a direct threat.
It seems like part of a bigger trend, doesn't it? Large companies wanting total supply chain control, more data, more speed, competing with Amazon's model.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for you behind the wheel, how could this kind of shift impact your job opportunities, the rates you can get?
It really underlines that need for adaptability again, maybe looking beyond just traditional long haul.
Definitely. Wow. Okay. We've covered a lot of ground today. It's clear the industry is navigating some major transformations.
Yeah, technology shifts, economic pressures, rule changes, even how the industry itself is structured. It's all in flux.
And it all directly impacts the lives of truck drivers.
Which brings us back to Hervey's point, right? Got to look at these things from every angle to really grasp what's going on and what it means for you.
Absolutely. And it also really highlights how important it is for you, the drivers, to be proactive, not just managing your time for the shippers.
That managing it for yourselves, too.
Exactly. Investing in yourselves, using downtime maybe to learn new skills, explore other income streams like Hervey and the retirefromtrucking.com folks talk about, even looking into things like AI maybe, opening up possibilities.
It's about resilience and smart planning. You guys are the absolute backbone of this industry, and navigating all this change takes that.
For sure. We really hope this deep dive gave you some clarity, maybe some food for thought as you keep rolling and keeping America moving.
Absolutely.
So wrapping up, with all these shifts happening, the tech, the costs, the regulations, the potential union push, giants like Walmart, changing things up.
What do you think? What's going to be the single biggest challenge, or maybe the biggest opportunity, facing truck drivers in the next few years? Something to chew on?